So tonight I have a show called Antagonistic Linguistics. We talk about the different things people say and that sort of seem to mean certain things, or like a lot of, like, I don't know. It could be anything from, support our troops to, LGBT pride flags. You know what I mean? And these sort of like a flag that you wave, your signal, right? Your virtue signal. What virtue? The virtue of patriotism or allegiance to the soldiers or something like that, or your association with pride, or your Black Lives Matter shirt, or whatever, right? And there are assumptions and words that sort of get associated with either any of those groups or philosophies that are connected to them. But anyway, so tonight that's what I want to talk about. Hopefully, my old friend from high school can tune in and join us, Tabari Jenkins. We may be seeing him in the future for some future shows. So, hold on, let me see what's going on here. This mic volume seems oddly low. Let me mess with this. All right. So again, let me know what your thoughts are. You've probably seen it too, and you see stuff like, one of the things that sort of makes me think about this is, I remember talking to a guy who spent a little bit of time as our HOA president, but someone that moved to the neighborhood somewhat recently, actually a couple years ago. And he was talking about all this time he spent at work and all these hours he spent and da da da, and how he missed, like his kids' birthdays and stuff like that. And he was saying stuff like, he was talking about it like it's this badge of honor. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you granted you're providing some of these toys and neat things for your family, but I mean, at the same time, your kids probably want to spend time with you, the human being, and not necessarily the material goods that you sacrifice that time for. And I think a lot of folks that sort of virtue signal about this labor martyrdom type thing in the name of work ethic. I don't know what kind of virtue signal. It's almost like a virtue signal about, look at me, I have work ethic. Look at me, the sacrifice I've made for my family, this martyrdom, right? And so that what they don't understand is that drive that can be used against them. They don't understand. They are like, this analogy has been used multiple times for context where people get duped. When someone gets duped by their own urges, right? And propaganda works off of this, and so does fascism, by the way, works off of this, or so does the socialist utopian dream, works off of this. So you get authoritarians in fascism and in potentially in socialism, even though that's a really an oxymoron, because the definition of socialism at its core has has democracy in it. It's a social project. So once it gets hijacked by either a vanguard party or authoritarian leader, then it's really not socialism. I mean, it becomes authoritarian, either state capitalism or something. If the workers don't own and control the means of production, then it's not socialism, then it's something else. And we could talk about definitions if you want. All right, looks like we got 3 people on tonight right now live with us. 3 out of the billions of people in the world, very unique people, tuned in. So share your thoughts since you're here with us. This is a fellowship of figuring out the shit that's going on around us. All right, so Superfan Chris is tuned in. What is up, sir? Thank you for tuning in. By the way, I apologize in advance. There are a lot of mosquitoes and bugs and stuff floating, flying around. So I'm in the shop studio. The door was open all day, and these critters get in. Um, I don't know what to say, but the acoustics I feel like in the shop studio aren't too bad because I don't think there's much echo. You tell me. But anyway, three people. Welcome, Superfan Chris. Thank you, by the way. Roadster in the back, 450 SL. Nightmare Project. I won't air her dirty laundry, however, because I'm finding out that the car culture is such that seeing the repairs and the rebuild and even handmade pieces of something um, doesn't stop people like the Instagram crowd and I don't know all these people that are sort of influencers and tastemakers and whatever. I mean, it's like just because someone has money doesn't mean they're not fickle or influenceable by even a crowd of dolts. You know what I mean? So someone may poo poo something, and now next thing you know, someone with money may not want to buy it because they, in their mind, have this perception that other people are going to think this thing again. They basically slut shame the car if you share too much of the car's history, which I think it adds sort of character, but they don't. It's just they slut shame it. It's like I guess it's like I mean, it's what you tell me. Let's talk about it. It's like saying a guy has a lot of character because he did it with a bunch of girls. Because now he has a lot of experience, right? So that counts for something, or the other way around, right? Or a girl has a lot of experience, right? You could either go with that or slut shame them, right? That's what's going on in our culture. Let's talk about it. I don't know. Maybe it's right. Maybe it's wrong. Anyway, Roadster looks good. Thank you very much. It's a nightmare. I won't describe it in detail, but it is a nightmare. So, no doubt, I'm sure you guys have heard the. Oh, yes. So, I'm sure you've run into people who talk about their martyrdom of themselves, their labor, their whatever, for work. And you probably see people. It's funny. You see, excuse me. You see like the Fox News crowd and Tucker Carlson and those kind of guys talk about virtue signaling on the left, quote unquote, on the left. So like if a professor or something says something about Black Lives Matter and or like virtue signaling, like Pelosi kneeling down or something with the stupid. I mean, it's not stupid, but it just was. It as in the context of silliness. I don't know, the kente cloth or whatever you call it. I don't know. Anyway, that's virtue signaling, right? But so is standing with your AR-15 in front of the flag. That's virtue signaling, right? All of this. Why? Why do you have to have like your Confederate flag flying around with your "Don't tread on me" on the other side of your truck? That's virtue signaling. So all these people going around waving their flag of whatever flavor it is, and just nothing in reality is getting done. You just get all this identity politics, and people like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess it's the people in their quest to try to be special, maybe. I don't know what it is. You tell me what you guys think. I'm not the expert. I'm just talking about some shit that I've seen. And by the way, okay, I was going to get into an analogy. This analogy has been used by people who have been duped. Let's talk about the dupe analogy. So what is happening is these people are getting like these martyr people, right? They want to show everybody their work ethic and They can get taken advantage of, right? They get taken advantage of by who? By capitalists, by people who could make money off of them by saying, you know what, you work so hard for your family, just work a little bit harder for your family, or it's you don't let them know, I'm talking shit on them right now. Yes, Micro, if you know Micro, tell them I'm talking shit and let's talk. I would love to hash some things out. that dude that pretends this fake. He pretends to go do these dirty jobs for like a few minutes, does it on camera, and then tells you, don't chase your passion, don't chase what you want to do. Just bring your passion with you to some slog job that's around. You know what I mean? But he didn't fucking do that. No. He chased his passion. He's a fucking actor. He's an actor. Anyway, whatever. Look, so people like that, they hire these charlatans like Mike Rowe, put him in a plaid shirt with a like a trucker hat, and then they tell and make him wear, don't shave for a day, Mike Rowe. Let your hair grow out a little tiny bit, like you haven't been to the, get a haircut because you're working so hard, and squint your eyes a little bit into the camera, like as if you've been welding or doing some kind of hard work that makes your eyes squint so much, and then go tell these people safety third. That's literally a campaign that he's doing. Look it up, Micro Safety Third. That motherfucker. He's a charlatan. He's a charlatan. Anyway, the analogy, the story of the wolf and the blade. The I heard that it's been debunked, but so if you get all animal rights on me, I'm pretty sure this is all fake anyway. But there's a saying that the old ones, be it the indigenous of the North, or nobody ever in history, supposedly that's really the real thing. Anyway, the ancient ones, in order to kill a wolf, because they are that desperate, everything else has run away. The only thing around are the wolves that are chasing them. And in order to get the wolf, what do? They put the blade of a knife, a big knife, into the ice. And maybe one of them, or I don't know, they have some livestock or something. Maybe they keep some blood around. And they put some blood on the blade, right? And they let the wolf, of course the wolves are curious. It smells like people, da-da-da. They can smell the blood. And the wolf comes and licks the blade, right? And smells the blood and licks the blade. And then as it's licking the blade, he's cutting his tongue. And as the wolf cuts his tongue, he tastes more blood. And the blood from the tongue mixes with the blood on the knife. And he doesn't know in the cold and in this desperation that he's cutting his own tongue. And eventually bleeds out, supposedly, according to the stories. This is happening to American workers when they play this martyr game about how they give up their life for their work, and then they have these kids with problems because they don't have parents around them. You know what I mean? And then what? And then what? Right? And then of course they have kids, and then they have problems because they're not around either. Right? And then we just have a bunch of people with problems. It's just I don't know. What do you guys think? Superfan Chris put some words down. Let's see. Wow, didn't know about Mike Rowe. Yeah, charlatan. Look him up. Safety third. He's in line. He's linked in with the Koch brothers. He specifically used to dupe the American white. It's more biased towards the American white working class to basically martyr their lives for capital, for people like the Koch brothers and shit, so they can get rid of OSHA regulations, so they can get rid of other safety, wage regulations, environmental regulations. Micro, he's a charlatan. Look it up. Yeah, so Wolf and the Blade. So we see that kind of relationship happening a lot. But who's the wolf? Who's the blade? What is the blade? Who's putting the blade in the snow, right? In this case, we're looking at a capitalist system that puts that blade in the snow and tricks you into thinking that if you work hard enough towards this goal, that you yourself will be fulfilled, right? And through that attempt to fulfill yourself, you then go and destroy yourself. And in the meantime, who benefits, right? the capitalist benefits. They take your corpse and then they use that and feed upon it, right? Because you spend your life doing what? Making someone else money. Now, if you're entrepreneurial and you have that spirit and skill set to be able to do that, or you can hire someone else to do that for you, because that basically it's a skill set. You can buy people who will start businesses with you for you if you have capital. I mean, at as simple as that. It's just like buying a carpenter. I mean, it's like buying a mechanic. You can buy these services. You see what I mean? So it's a skill set. But in our society, we've just decided that someone who has capital and has the ability to organize that capital in their name or in other people's names gets to have all of the product of that capital forever. And that's just it's a weird sort of game, even though they're not they're not manipulating the capital. Someone else, they're renting human beings to manipulate the capital, with the resources, right? Capital goods or commodities, etc. Um, Michael W., what is up, sir? What is up? By the way, share this around, spread it around. What kind of virtue signaling? I know you guys know some people that virtue signal all the time. I don't care if they're super lefty or they're super righty or whatever. That's all fake anyway. Get them on. Let's talk. Let's get through this shit together. All right. So what did he say? Hard work is its own reward. Like we shouldn't expect actual rewards for the work we put in. No doubt, right? That is, in essence, that's the capitalist scare language for communism, right? That you, with your ubermensch ability, will have to carry on your shoulders all the dummies that are around in society that probably should, in their minds, should be culled out by, I guess, the invisible hand, and they will be, allowed to. They will be allowed to die on the edge of the litter if there's not enough teats for their mouth to latch upon. But thus is the way. Thus is the libertarian way, and there are some libertarians that way that are sociopathic enough to suggest that people go ahead and die if they can't make it in this constructed world that we live in. That's totally matrix shit. We just have these weird rules, and we have, they literally are sort of weird because if you think about stuff in a real deep macro sense, a lot of stuff doesn't make sense, and we just deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, neoliberalism, this sort of system we're in, that the market can have a solution for everything. Oh damn! What was I just about to say? I lost my train of thought. Anyway, neoliberalism. That the market has an answer for everything. That it's just not. It's not true. The market that we see in COVID, for instance, this whole pandemic, there is no market solution to just help people not die, right? Now, you have to wait for the government to pay somebody to make some masks. They aren't just doing it just because the market's not doing it, just because someone might be altruistic, but Ayn Rand said never be altruistic. So then, and we have people like the Pauls, Rand Paul, Ron Paul, Paul Ryan, whatever his name is, Mitch McConnell, no doubt, Trump, all advocates of Ayn Rand. She wrote a book called what did she say? It's called the something of selfishness. Dang it, I can't remember. Virtue of selfishness, this lady. So anyway, they are ascribers to her philosophy. Like, do they even belong in society? I think if I mentioned this a long time ago, or not even that long ago, if we do have to have a bifurcation, let's like sort of divide as to where, if we're gonna have this crazy civil war boogaloo, what should the dividing line be? It should be like those Randian, self-interested, selfish virtue people that don't belong in society. If we are to maintain society, and if we are to have such a conflict of mass civil violence against each other, then let that be the dividing line. The selfish versus the cooperatives. You know, the individualist versus the cooperatists, I guess. Like, do you cooperate or are you solo only? You know what I mean? Not that you have to, like, maybe you work alone better, but you understand that in your work that you work for the good of the people or something like that. You know what I mean? You could be introverted and hate working around people, but you're not trying to exploit people. You see what I mean? There's a difference. So it's like we can't try to misunderstand this. We got to look at it in the most positive kind of way. It's like, you know, you don't have to be, when I say cooperatist, it's someone who believes that you can't kill the lion alone. You need your brothers and sisters. You, even if you had the physical strength to kill the lion, your kids don't, right? And your probably spouse, I don't know, maybe there's a lady that can kill a lion, but show me. Show me. I don't believe it. All right. I mean, nothing sexist. I'm just saying, born a lady, gonna kill a lion by themselves with no like weapons. I mean, unless they can craft them themselves without being taught how to craft the weapon. You see what I mean? How about that? Because again, can you fight the lion alone? If you're being taught how to craft a weapon, then you are standing on the shoulders of another person. So that means you're not doing it alone. You did it with someone else. All right, Michael W. says, wait, what did it's a handy way to keep people exhausted and therefore distracted. However, yes. Indeed, of course. With your nose to the grindstone, you never know what they're doing in your name, right? Your nose is down, you're working. You can't tell that they're grifting you, that they're giving all their money to their friends. I mean, giving your money, the tax money, to their buddies on Wall Street and whatever. Yeah, that's what's happening. That is our world. We have decided, I guess, together that this is how we live. I don't know what is going on. Is this the right way? I know that I see a very clear pathway to what will work and help solve these problems, right? It's a move towards people as partners, that we honor labor as much as capital, right? But of course, capitalists don't want that. Of course, that's a form of socialism. If you grant your workers or the workers of an organization democratic control of the organization, including of the profits, and basically ownership of the company. That's a socialist type thing. And a lot of people, as soon as they hear something like that, they're gonna freak out. They can't handle it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think. We got Michael the Wine Gardener and Superfan Chris in the chat talking about it. What do you guys think? What other thoughts are there? What other things have you run into? What kind of virtue signaling and things like that have you run into that is on your mind? Hit it up. But go in the live chat. Tell your friends. We got 2 people watching right now. Spam it out. Who's sitting around doing nothing right now? Get them involved, especially someone. I know you know somebody out there who is very opinionated. Surely, I mean, we all do. Facebook out there somewhere. Get them on board. Let's talk about it. What virtue signaling? What kind of messaging do we see? How about cancel culture? I don't agree with all of that either. Let's talk. What's going on? Paw Patrol. Is Paw Patrol really canceled? I don't know. What's going on? I don't watch that show, but it sounds to me like that's sort of a big deal. Kids like that show. And, well, at least this one girl that walks with her granddad in my neighborhood likes Paw Patrol. But, Cancel culture, what is that? That is simply people out there, some people making a stink about some shit, right? And then somebody reacting to that stink. And the thing is, you either react to it or don't react to it. That's really the end of, I mean, you don't have to react to it, you know what I mean? Like if a company decides they want to fire someone cuz they did some shit, that's on the company. They don't have to fire them. I don't think the government's going to make them fire them. If people make a stink and they decide to fire them, they could say, "You know what? They made a stink. I don't care. I'm standing by my employee. You can make whatever stink you want." And guess what? Some people will honor you for that decision. I don't know. You are picking and choose. This company, the company is picking and choosing. Their PR department, their public relations propaganda department is picking and choosing what side do they want to be on. That's what you're witnessing when you start seeing stuff like that. Watch out for corporations jumping into the fray for the George Floyd protests, Black Lives Matter stuff, all these big name movements going on. They're gonna hijack it and co-opt it because they see money in there. They see identity in there. They see something where like, oh, well, people are really passionate about something, so let's latch on to that. That's the new hot thing. Let's latch on. You know what I mean? And because we're latched, maybe people will pay us extra mind. You know. Michael W says, cancel culture has gone too far, in my opinion. I think it's on purpose to some degree. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Um, it's not really a culture. It's just that there's people that say stupid shit. Like, okay, if 6,000 people on Twitter, how many people on Twitter? If 6,000 people like something stupid, does that mean it's a cultural thing? You know what I mean? This, like, we're literally seeing stuff like this. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. But then again, some stuff is sort of. I just don't see the need to. Yeah, I mean, some people are giving out demands for things, and you don't have to comply with that. But that's your decision, and people don't have to act a certain way to you if you decide not to comply. You know what I mean? So it's like a double-edged sword. That's where power asymmetry becomes a big issue. That's why people with money can basically say whatever they want, sort of. I mean, and then they can get trolled by the public and da da da. But at the end of the day, if you got money, you can make more money. You can be isolated. You could buy a freaking private island if you wanted to. Who gives a shit what people are saying to you if you have a private island? You know what I mean? I mean, it's whatever. All right, Michael W. says, here's a question. Is it intolerant to not tolerate intolerance? I mean, there, yeah, you have to not tolerate. Like, so for instance, if someone is making a movement to say, we should get rid of Jews or something like that, that is meaning that you won't tolerate Jews in the society. Then obviously you can't tolerate that view. And they could say, well, that's intolerance. You don't want to tolerate my view. I'm like, well, yeah, because you are espousing the the non-existence of other people in our society. Now, you could say, well, James, you just said you shouldn't have Ayn Rand people in society because they think selfishness is a virtue, and I think that's true that they shouldn't be in our society. So I don't know. We have to fundamentally we have a question of what do what do we want society to look like, right? So yeah, if the question becomes, should we tolerate intolerance? Now you're being intolerant. Yeah, I'm intolerant of that. I don't need to be tolerant of everything. You know what I mean? Like, I'll tolerate some shit. Like for instance, if I'm around some kid in a restaurant, like I'll tolerate some jumping around, some shenanigans here and there. But he like some kid dumps a drink on me or something. The tolerance level is gone. You know what I mean? I'm only tolerant to a degree. So it's a straw man to say, "Oh, you're not being tolerant because you don't like Nazis." I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't tolerate Nazis. You're right. You're right. And nobody says no. I'm not tolerant. So yeah, fuck it. I'm not tolerant. Oh, but I thought the left. Well, you fucking thought wrong. I don't know what the left is to you. I don't know what baggage you have in your brain, but I don't fucking tolerate Nazis. I'm just like, I don't know. What does that mean? Does that mean all the Nazis should come to my door and we should fight? No, I'm not saying that. I mean, that's the typical reaction, though, because they can't talk or whatever, or they could talk and then just stupid ideas, right? They know they're stupid, but they just want them anyway because it's like they were so close, and if they just did a couple things different, right? Crazy people. They're here. They're around. They're around us. They're in the They're in the military. They're in law enforcement. They're in politics. They are in powerful places, these people. They're out there. I would like to ask them, how do I flush you out? How do I know, out of all the white people in some group of fucking people, how do I know which ones grew up in a racist household and now have the residue of racism or embraced racism? At some point, who gives a shit? I don't care if they were raised that way or not. At some point, if they embraced racism and they're racist now in the position of power, how do you flush them out? I would love to sit down in a group of white people that deny racism, or like the white people that are at the like there was this I think it was in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, possibly, I don't know. They were in Louisiana. It was like a city council meeting, and protesters were giving speeches and talking about stuff. And then there was like a couple city council. There was a school board member from like at the council was like shopping online for clothes, and they got a picture of it, and then totally got trolled and called out in front of everybody while they were shopping. They weren't paying attention, and they started talking about them. And everyone started looking at them, and they realized it, and they're like, "Yeah, you need to get up and da 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 da." That is the shit. That's the fucking racist ass shit. That's the indifference. The like, yeah, fuck it. I don't give a fuck. That's watching the Jews go getting carted off in the fucking railroads that go to Dachau. You know what I'm saying? That's what that is. That's that fucking indifference. That's that shit. That lets white supremacists do whatever the fuck, and it's like, hey, man, whatever, And then there's people like Ben Shapiro, there's people like Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity that speak this language of antagonism that say things like, someone's a thug or someone lived in a certain area, so that the crime rate is such and such, so they must be part of that. Or there's some narrative or some shit, you know what I mean? So anyway, it's like there's always an excuse from some of these white people for the racist white people, and that's the thing that they never want, the white people never want to talk about, is this notion, this concept that rules and laws don't change hearts and minds. Just because you put in a rule on the books, if you made Christianity illegal tomorrow, do you think motherfuckers would like stop practicing Christianity? Hell no. They'd be like all these Christians running around like protesting with their AR-15. I don't know, going to church, professing their love for Jesus with their guns. You know what I mean? That would happen in this country. So when you say, okay, segregation's not allowed, We are not a racist country. You think those people woke up in the morning like, I love my black brothers and sisters? Hell no. You think they taught their kids, oh yeah, hang out with all the black kids you can. That's great. Get some integration in your lives. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure the black families were like, yeah, go hang out with those white kids that were acting all stupid yesterday, throwing eggs at you and telling you don't go to school here and blah blah. Yeah, go hang out with them. They're fun. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. As if that day, that law change suddenly changed the hearts and minds. Now granted, I believe exposure to each other is the best way to eradicate racism. So that's why we see so much racism has been eradicated to a large degree, and racism is no longer acceptable in our country by and large for general society. However, there are groups that simmer and seethe deep down that they have to put on airs, a chocolate coating to their racist center, center. Um, and that's, I don't know, that's fucking basically what's going on. So what do you guys think? 3 people watching out of or joined together in our little meeting, once a week meeting, to figure out what the fuck is going on in this world. What do you guys think? Michael W, Superfan Chris is on. What else? Who has some crazy opinions? By the way, what are your thoughts on class reductionism? I was so accused of being a class reductionist. I didn't agree. What do you guys think about class reductionism? Even if you're watching in the archives, put something in the comments so we can talk about it later, because I usually do that. Sorry. I got to take a drink of something every once in a while, talking. By the way, if you know someone who wants to be on the show, or you want to be on the show, let me know. You can Skype in. You can show up at the shop studio if you want. Many options. You let me know. Whatever is clever. But, sometimes it's cool to have some other opinions and folks on, etc. Superfan Chris says, class reductionism, explain please. Yes, so it's sort of it's something that's been going on for a while. So this is probably the biggest contention for people when they look at the quote-unquote left. Class reductionism is, in the leftist sense, where someone, basically a movement or a proponent of a movement, tries to, in the words of someone accusing another person of class reductionism, this is someone who is trying to reduce all problems into class problems only, and basically say, wait till we figure out the class problem to figure out any other problem, like race problems or LGBT, type of those identity politics types problems and whatever. So if like for instance, I said something along the lines of, if we can back off on the identity politics and focus on the class aspect of politics, we could probably take some people, of course, if you're in the super leftist circle, then people like the militia, libertarian people, a lot of Republicans, but mainly just conservatives. It may or may not be Republicans. Maybe they're independents. Some of these non-Trumpian, non-cult Trump fans, but they're still conservative to some degree. We, to get some of these working class people on our side, as in the working class, would be great. Now, what happens is you get people that are really deep into the race fight about, BLM movement, for instance. Maybe they want to focus on building a coalition and movement around eradicating racial injustice and those things. But the question becomes, what is the tangible thing that you're trying to do? If it is it defund the police? Is it change, make institutional changes within politics or structures, institutional structures? Sometimes that's the case, and these folks, they acknowledge that there is a class dynamic, but that we need to focus on the solution of the pain and suffering of minorities at the hands of, or not direct hands, but at the hands of the system, basically, or and of racism, not just the system, but of racism in general, like even going to like redlining or slavery, even, and those kinds of things. And so, like, they would accuse me of being a class reductionist because I'm saying that a lot of the issues that we're looking at as far as racial issues, excuse me, this is the least comfortable chair. Oh man, that way I don't have shows that last like 3 hours. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so I've been accused of being a class reductionist because I've claimed that, look, if we can bring a lot of right wing people in and create a unified working class movement, if we don't constantly, like, if we come up with tangible solutions to the race issue as opposed to just a lot of virtue signaling about white oppression and black oppression, white oppression from whites to blacks, etc., or people of color, and blah blah. Because what they don't realize, and I feel like these are people that just really don't understand how deep the class struggle is my opinion. And they're going to be insulted, and they're going to think I'm an asshole, and I'm exactly the kind of toxic, cis het white. I'm white enough, even though I'm white as Obama is. White enough, cis, whatever. This, power dynamic of privilege, I am looking at it from that point of view. Look, I understand that there is a massive race problem in America. It's founded in our roots of having race problems. I am no stranger to that, but I feel like we can walk and chew gum, and these people just don't get it. They don't understand what's going on, and that we need to fundamentally change the class dynamic, because by changing the class dynamic, we can now have time and capacity to mobilize. By changing the class dynamic, we could lift our noses away from the grindstone and cast our gaze upon what the fuck they're doing with our money, with the power, with the police, with the politicians, da 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 da. All of that stuff we can finally look up. And, of course they don't want that. And these people that accuse others of class reductionism, I don't think they understand that. The long-term potential and the fact that we can look at tangible changes to the justice system. We can defund the police, and we can look at a new class dynamic all at the same time. But but some people, I don't think they get it. And like I said, they're gonna say that I'm some toxic, privileged, da da da. And like, look, I acknowledge there's a race problem. What the fuck do you want from me? I already said, let's put it to the white cops. How do I flush out the white supremacists of you? Are you all white supremacists? If you're not all white supremacists, how do I know which one is? Are none of you white supremacists? How do I know that you're not lying? FBI says the law enforcement's been infiltrated. So how do we prove the FBI wrong? How do you tangibly prove that? Right? That's where that becomes tough. So how do we know when racism permeates into some power dynamic? Michael W. says, in a plutocracy, class reductionism is simply reality. Yeah, it's true. there is a massive reduction of, and I think that I think that there are voices on the left that are loud, and I think they're mostly fringe. I think they are minority fringe of a minority. So what I'm saying is, out of people of color, I think if I sat down with a bunch of black folks and Latinos and Asians, I don't know, whoever you want to lump in, as in the not having privilege of whatever you think the privilege overall is, right? I not that I don't and I'm a big I don't want to say big, but I recognize the existence of white privilege, right? But I also know that there's white people suffering, blah blah, because of the class dynamic. So, but here's the thing: they're suffering just like black people are suffering, but they don't have to deal with what you know. How does the FBI report of white supremacists infiltrating law enforcement affect poor white people? Now, how does it affect poor black people? That's the difference. You see what I mean? So yeah, you have it hard, white people. You have some shit too. You get kicked in the teeth, but on top of that, black people got to deal with racists. On top of that, Mexicans got to deal got to deal with anyone that's not white supremacist or white basically has to deal with the white supremacists, and the white people don't. I mean, that's just simple the shit right there. And here's the thing: if white supremacists, think about this, if white supremacists are infiltrating law enforcement, how many white supremacists aren't going into law enforcement? That means they're out there, they're just not in law enforcement. You see what I'm saying? So it's just, we got a crazy situation, and we just need to reckon with that. And I think now we're being forced to reckon with it through the different movements that are going on. I think it's an interesting thing to see unfold. I think we are in historic times. There's going to be a major depression coming. Um, I think that in the depression, where there's going to be depression, like chemical depression or whatever, human depression. There will be some level of an increase in the disparity, or not despair, in despair. I'll put it that way, in precariousness and despair. We already have a suicide epidemic. I think if there were to be a rebellion, like the rebel alliance, not maybe a rebel alliance of some sort, like the 3%ers plus. No, 3%ers have too much fascist. They basically need to change their credo to be more basically socialistic, as in less individualistic Ayn Rand style, and more, market socialist kind of style. I guess a narco socialist in a way, sort of. You would look at less about a central government power structure and more democratically run uh, and governed power structures in a narco socialism, But that's like sort of almost an oxymoron ish, but not really. I don't. Anyway, whatever. I don't like labels because they get all weird, right? Let's just talk about the things. What do we need to fix this shit? Number one, we need to treat people like partners, right? Number two, I really think we need the land grant lottery. A lot of people don't even want to fucking play this game. They don't want to work a menial job. They would rather tend to their carrots for 3 hours in the morning and have a few acres of some carrots and go fishing and, I don't know, pick up a trade or skill and just do that a little bit and make a little extra cash on the side. And that's life every day. And then 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, you go do some government work in exchange for living on the land. I bet people would do that. I bet people would just pick up and I bet a third of the workforce pick up and leave if they got a chance to just get up and leave. And we had some nice places for them to go. I'm saying nice places. You know what I mean? Why not? Why the fuck not? We would have such a crazy crazy world, crazy paradigm. Um, the world would be overall better. The people like Jeffrey Epstein, the elites of our world would not like it. Everyone else would do much better, but they would not be as extreme wealthy. The Jeff Bezos wouldn't exist as Jeff Bezos does now. Not in the same exact way. They could, to some degree. It would take them a while longer, and they would have to game the system in a different way. But thus, in gaming the system, they will change a paradigm to make it better for everyone else. I have plans. It's like a Chinese finger trap. The harder they pull to, escape, the more the system that I've devised, the mechanism I devised, will latch down upon them, and they will actually help create. Actually, I will, not I, we, if we implement what I'm talking about. We will finally place the blade ourselves in the snow, and then the capitalists will lick the blade, and then they will eventually, in their fervor to fatten themselves, will destroy themselves. I mean, they will race. They will race each other. If the paradigm we could just put in legislation to make this happen. Tax scheduling and I'm talking about 15% tax-free money. Right? Anytime you say tax-free, suddenly people are like, "Oh shit, let's talk." I'm talking about tax-free incentives. They will be on a mad dash to create worker self-directed enterprises to the point where everyone's working in a worker self-directed enterprise. They will race each other to create them because there's only going to be so many, and eventually it'll all fizzle out, So, and eventually I want to create a charity where that's what you do, is create worker self-directed enterprise instead of these charities. Because what is their incentive to stop whatever it is, the charity? Like, if your charity is to stop world hunger, why would they stop world hunger? Then they wouldn't exist, right? I mean, it's how many charities have you seen with a pledge to not exist in 5 years and then actually meet that pledge? People get comfortable as CEO of the charity or as manager and receiving salary off that charity. Superman Chris says, yes, definitely get rid of the labels. So annoying. Yes, I mean, it's just like, who knows what people are even talking about. Michael W. said, dang, have to go, but might have a few friends ready to jump on next week. Good show. Need to see you next week. All right, Michael W., thank you very much for tuning in. Yes, if you know some people that want to tune in and talk about the madness going on in our world, have them tune in. Have them tune in. They can be a guest. They can come on with Skype, chat, many, many different ways that they can do this. So, anyway, this has been another episode of The Void. As you can hear, we have separate beats in the background. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, like, subscribe, tell your friends, get people involved, because it's more fun when we're all talking, especially people with different opinions. Let's get some Trump fans. Who's some Trump fans out there? Let's talk. They're probably going to get triggered and pissed off. Tell them I called Trump a whiny bitch. Let's talk. See if they get mad enough to get on and get triggered and want to discuss something. If you have super leftist friends, let's talk to them. If you have like Hillary Clinton, Obama style friends, get them on. Let's talk about them and whatnot. So, all right, another episode, and until next time, it has been a pleasure. And like, subscribe, all those things that I just said, and I'll see you next time. Next episode.